People are starting to ask questions. You're not going to hear this reported in the mainstream media, but on the ground, behind closed doors, people are asking some very pointed, very detailed questions about the events in Surfside, Florida. One of the main ones is if there was some kind of an issue with the contractor or the quality standards of the building, and there's an identical building just a block or two north, built by the same people with the same materials, at the same time, why are people still being allowed to live there? You see, they know. They know, but of course, here on this platform, we have to be very, very circumspect about what we actually say. There is a witness, however, and it was a gentleman who was in the region that evening, who heard the event, and what he described sounded very much like something we've all heard of before. But once again, we have to be very careful what we say. If you want to hear a video and hear information where I can take the gloves off, so to speak, and lay it all out for you, we have to go to Patreon. It's the only place it's allowed. I can't be any more detailed than that here because this is no longer a free and fair platform. It hasn't been for a long time. It's something where many people don't understand the difference between content and personality. And that's an entirely different video for an entirely different day. But many aren't putting this together. The event recently where President Joe Biden launched airstrikes for no apparent reason, out of nowhere, after saying that he was trying to work on getting back in the Iran nuclear deal. It doesn't seem like that would be something you would do to foster goodwill unless you had a different reason for doing it. Now, the details of the connections between this event and the one we just got done speaking of are pretty clear and undeniable, and they go back over a quarter century. In fact, to the day, 25 years ago, to the day, 25 years ago, the event in Surfside and another event tie this all together. And it makes sense when you look at the pattern clinically and coldly. There's really not much more than can be said than that. Other than acknowledging President Joe Biden having demonstrated that he has the ability to protect our troops overseas. That's the message with this, of course, and nothing else. I wish I could say more. The folks down here, though, need your thoughts and prayers. The rescuers, the first responders, the families. It's about as bad as it gets. How this happened is something that they will attempt to ascertain in a way that is palatable to the public. And they will be running out story after story after story to see which one sticks to the wall best. But make no mistake, it's all bunk. I did a video earlier today, and unfortunately, I was a little bit too detailed with it, and so I have to release this one today. But suffice it to say, there are tens of thousands of high-rises from the Keys all the way around the Gulf, up through the Panhandle, all the way north to the Georgia border, South Carolina, all over Florida, built right on the sand, built right next to the ocean, and they have suffered hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, storms of all shapes and sizes over decades, and they're all still here. Hurricane force winds don't take these buildings down. They are built to a standard far beyond that in other places. They have to be. Why? Because they are continually, of course, battered with wind, with salt, with moisture. These are some of the most heavily reinforced structures in all of North America, especially those down here in Miami. If there were a part that had fallen off, or maybe one floor that had sagged, or a piece of the building that had peeled off and fell down, maybe. That's believable. That could happen. But what we saw? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not under any circumstances could that be the case. These aren't just any old random buildings, and this is no knock on the Midwest, but they don't build them on Miami Beach like they build them in Illinois or Iowa. Now, I know there are tornadoes and I know you have thunderstorms, but a building that is continually subjected to the winds off the ocean, forget the hurricanes, they have to be reinforced and built in a way where the standards are just so much higher. That's why you don't hear about things like this. You just don't hear about it. It never happens. We've had Hurricane Michael. We've had Hurricane Sandy. We had Hurricane Andrew. We had Matthew. We had so many of them come through with gale force winds that would hit these buildings at 100 miles an hour for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. Storm surges that would go in and soak all of the pillars, everything underneath. The parking garages would be over your head in salt water. They're designed for this. There's no leaky pool foundation. There's no cracking, spalling single or one or two columns in a parking garage. A parking garage, by the way, that's still standing. You can see it over here. That's going to cause this. I don't care what they're talking about with corruption. I don't care what they're talking about with grift. The pictures that they're showing, okay, that doesn't cause this. It could cause the building to creak and groan or lean or, maybe even a crack, but to completely, no. Sorry, not buying it, not today, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one not buying it. They're not reporting this in their updates. But when they're having, and some of the reporters are picking up on this. Some of the reporters are picking up on this story because they continually ask, what's being discussed at the family reunion center? Oh, and they say about this and that and the other. What they're not talking about are the families saying, when are you going to start looking at this critically and telling us the truth? Why isn't this being done? Why isn't that being done? Why is the process moving so slowly? I'll be very honest with you. It looks to me, well, I can't say that here. But there might be something down there, maybe, perhaps, that they are fearing. And that's why they have to be incredibly, incredibly judicious. And that's all I'm going to be able to say here on YouTube. But once again, we will open up the floodgates, so to speak, for a bigger discussion over on Patreon. And this is actually the right thing to do so that a video talking about things that would upset perhaps a family member or someone who's lost a loved one, it'll keep it out of their newsfeed. It'll keep it out of their sphere. If they don't want to hear about it, I don't want them to be exposed to it. I want someone to have to choose specifically to go look for the information. And if you want to, $1 a month, $10 a year. And I will leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you over on Twitch in a little bit.